Today I'm going to cook a whole dinner on a Kamado Bono. Hi, welcome along to Barbecue Life, home of the Kamado Bono. Today, as I said, we're cooking a whole dinner out there, so we're going to be doing a leg of lamb in a special way. We've got some veggies on the go and we've got some new potatoes on the go as well. So when I say it's all cooked on the Kamado, we are going to parboil the potatoes indoors because I believe that is a waste of charcoal outside, and we are going to parboil our vegetables inside before we finish them off over the coals. If you don't parboil the vegetables beforehand, I find that they burn. So I've done a lot of veg out here. People may well have seen my failed cauliflower steak video a few weeks ago where we tried to cook it outside and it didn't go great. So I've learnt from that. I know that you need a little bit of steam inside these just to get them going, and then you're going to get that char on the bottom. But let's crack straight on with this. So a few weeks ago I did put out in the community tab and across all of my socials that lamb was pretty cheap just before Easter, and to pick up a leg then, ready for a video coming in the next few weeks. So I managed to get a bargain on this. It's been reduced. It's got £1 as the cashback thing in my points part of whatever it is. The missus deals with all of that, but we managed to get this down to a more sensible price. It's 1.8 kilo. We're going to get that out of the packaging, and what we want to do is we want to cut into this leg. So I'm just going to kind of spiral cut down one side. As you know, I'm not a butcher, I ain't great at this, but you're going to get the gist of it. So we spiral cut around one way and then we spiral cut around the other way. So we've got some nice cuts through there so that the flavour can get right down into the meat. So now we want to crack on with our marinade. So I've got them all laid out on the chopping board in front. So we've got a handful of mint leaves. We want to get that into the blender, food processor, whatever you've got. If you don't have any of that, you can chop this up really small, get it in a pestle and mortar and smash it up together. So get them mint leaves in there. Then we've got 2 chilies that we're going to de-seed, take all the membrane out the middle, and we're going to pop them into the food processor as well. And then we were supposed to have 2 mangoes. So we've got our first mango and we've taken all our flesh out from that. You don't want any of that skin. Cut around the stone as best you can. Again, I'm not great at that, but we've taken as much off as possible. When I've gone to cut into the second mango, this is what it looked like. So I'm already on the back foot of what I wanted to do today. But it's not going to stop me. So what I've done is I've added a splash of apple juice into this blender, because that mango, where it's really ripe, that was going to give me the liquidy consistency for this to be able to blend down. I didn't want it too hard, so we've added a bit of apple juice just to get that blended down. And I'm not going to show you the blended going around in a blender. Everyone knows what things look like going around in a blender, but this is what it looked like after it was blended. It's got a real beautiful colour to it. So we're just going to take our lamb leg that we cut into earlier on, pour some over the top and really massage that in, making sure that we get it in all of them cuts so that we're getting flavour down into that meat. Flip it over and do exactly the same to the other side. And then we want to put this off to one side just for a couple of hours, get it in the fridge, let it rest, let all them flavours penetrate into the lamb itself, while we can prepare some other bits. So as I said, we're doing a whole meal out here today. So the next thing we want to prepare is our vegetables. So I've got asparagus, green beans and broccoli. Asparagus, the best way to get rid of the woody piece on an asparagus is to just hold the very end, hold it kind of halfway up and bend it. Wherever it snaps, the bottom end of that is going to be woody and tough. The rest of it is going to be beautifully tender. So some snap quite low down, some snap a little bit higher up, but we're going to get them off to one side. Then our green beans, we can trim the very ends off of there, cut them in half, get them off to one side. And then we've got our broccoli. So our florets themselves, we want to chop them in half and then either chop them into quarters or them halves into thirds, depending on how big that floret is, because it's quite dense, so it takes a little while to cook, and you don't want to be overcooking like the floury floret part at the end while you're still waiting on the stalk to steam down. So all them veggies, you want to take your green beans and your broccoli, put them in a saucepan, and then a bit later on when the lamb is nearly ready. Get them on, just bring them up to the boil. As soon as the pan starts boiling, shut them off, put the lid on and leave that there just for 5 minutes. And that's just going to tenderize them up slightly and stop them from burning on the grill later on. The asparagus you don't need to do that too, because that won't take that long to cook. And then we've got some new potatoes, so we're just going to chop them up. If they're small, chop them in half. If they're bigger, chop them into quarters. Just try and keep them all a uniform size. And these we are going to boil inside. So we want to boil these so that until they're tender, and then we will finish them off over the grill later on. So our lamb's had a couple of hours. We've got all our veg prepped. It's now time to get the Kamado Bono lit. So we're just going in with some Texas Club charcoal in the bottom, and then get a couple of woodies in and around there, get them lit. When the charcoal's starting to take, we want to get our deflector plates in there because we're going for an indirect cook today. So we've got our deflector plates. If you're wondering why they're covered in foil, then check out my How I Messed Up Christmas video from a few weeks ago, and that'll explain to you why they're all covered in foil. So we're going to get them in place, get our grill grates in place, all our vents open, and get the temperature up. So we want to aim for about 160 to 180 degrees today. If you go sort of creeping into the 200s, then you stand a chance of the sugars in that marinade burning, and we don't want that because then you're going to have a bitter flavour. So we just want to rein it back slightly. So I've got a finger in the bottom vent and 1.5 to 2 on the top vent, depending on how warm it is outside. So once we are up to temperature, we need to get things in place. So I'm using the grill extender today so that I can get a drip pan directly underneath it. You could cook this on the standard bars with a drip pan on the deflector plate, but what I've found is that deflector plate gets so hot that that drip pan smokes away, and anything that drips down and hits that automatically burns, and then you get bad smoke. So by lifting it up and putting it on the grill grates and using the grill extender, you don't get so much of that bad smoke from whatever burns into the drip pan. So we set it up like that, and we're going to get our lamb and pop it on the top. We want to shut that lid, and we're going to leave that for 40 minutes. After that 40 minutes, we want to give it a baste again with some of that marinade that we got left over from the beginning. And then we want to flip it over and baste again on that top side, and then pop it back in for about another half an hour. After that half an hour, now's the time you want to start checking our temperatures. So we are sitting at 50 degrees, and that is just perfect for finishing this off with a little bit of sear, just to get a little bit more colour on the lamb. So we're just going to take that off the grill, get it onto a chopping board for a minute while we take the grill grates out, remove the deflector plates. Make sure you use decent gloves to do this because they are incredibly hot, and make sure that you've got somewhere safe to put them. Don't just pop them on the ground. You put them on a paving slab, you stand a chance of cracking that paving slab. If you put them somewhere a child can get them and touch them, they are going to burn themselves. They are incredibly hot. So I tend to put them inside another grill, or if you've got a shelf next to your grills or anything out of the way, or at worst, stick them in your oven indoors. But you need decent gloves to be able to hold them for that length of time. So if you want a glove and a tea towel, so you've got a bit more protection from it while you run it indoors, but make sure you've got all your doors open, you've got everybody out of the way, because you want to get that in and out of the way because they are incredibly hot. So we've got our deflectors out. We're now going to go in with a half moon plancher at the back. If you don't have a half moon plancher, then you can do this in a frying pan. So you haven't got to worry about buying lots of different equipment, but if you don't have the half moon plancher, it's great. It's a brilliant investment. It's fantastic for smash burgers, searing off all sorts of stuff, and we use it loads on the channel, so it is a good investment. So with our veg, we now want to get that saucepan on and let that start to come up to temperature so that we can get these to a steaming point where they're just going to start to tenderise. While that's on, get your lamb back on over that direct heat, and we just want to keep flipping it every couple of minutes, keep basting and flipping until it reaches 55 degrees C. And after that's rested, that'll give you a beautiful medium rare. Once that's taken off, we've got them veggies ready. We're going to get them into a wok with holes in it. So I picked this up, well, I didn't pick it up, my mother bought me this many years ago. But I have seen them in Wilkinson's and B&Q over the last few years, but I found a link on Amazon as well, just in case you can't pick them up anywhere else. So they're really good. I really enjoy cooking on these. We can get our veggies in there and we can get them over that direct heat, and this will steam the water back out of them, which will help tenderise them, and then you can get a nice bit of colour on the bottom. We've got our asparagus in there as well, kind of nestled in. We want to give these sort of 5 to 8 minutes head start before we start on our potatoes. So I parboiled these indoors earlier on as well. So they're tender, but they're not really soft. So once the veggies are starting to take on the colour, that is when we can add our potatoes to the back. So we've got our potatoes on that really hot plancha. We're going to add some salt and pepper to those, a little bit of seasoning, and then we just take a couple of spatulas and smash them down. Now some will stick to the spatula. If they do, you can just scrape them off. But you just want to get a really nice contact point across that plancha. Some break up and you get really tiny little crispy bits of potatoes. Other bits will go skin down and you get a nice crispy bit of skin. There's a really nice variation on there, and they don't take that long at all. So our veggies have got a nice colour on them, they are cooked through. Our potatoes have got a beautiful sear on them. It's time to get them off, get them on the serving plates and carve up our lamb. So our lamb, we're just going to cut into it, and as you can see as we're cutting through, it's beautifully tender. It's got a really nice medium rare there. It's full of juice and flavour and just absolutely fantastic. These veggies, we're going to get them onto a plate. Now you may have seen earlier on when I had that lamb, I had a little pan with a little bit of dollop of something in the middle. So that was some garlic that I've got just going in some olive oil. So I wasn't completely frying that garlic, I just wanted to warm it up just slightly so it really starts to let its flavour out, and we're just going to flavour that oil. And then with that oil, we're just going to dress over the top of our veggies, and this cook is done. So we've got it plated up. There is no taste test. I wanted to do a taste test, but next door we're out in the garden revving motorbikes, so there was no point whatsoever. So yeah, the lamb is absolutely fantastic. You've got loads of different complex flavours going on in there. It's nice, really nice medium rare. It's been a while since we used really. If you go right back to the beginning videos, I used to say really about everything, and Dutchy Cooking even made me up a t-shirt that said really on it, which was really nice of him. Really nice of him. So the meal is absolutely fantastic. You can cook it all outside. It'll make a great meal on the Coronation Bank holidays or any time that you've got family coming round. So yeah, leave me a comment, let me know what you think about the recipe. Make sure you like it, share it, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subbed, and thank you very much for watching. Cheers.